Ladies and gentlemen, I am Paul, U.S. Army combat veteran, and today we are taking a look at Seth's latest video. This is Tribal Hunter Review, Hyperinflation Edition, and something tells me this is going to be pretty uncomfortable. Let's get into it.
People, Seth here. Here's our topic of the day. Inflation. Inflation is a global topic. Some of the most powerful people on this planet are the same people responsible for the most inflation. Coincidence? I think not. You might think it's just a way of printing liquidity for short-term gain and no consequence, because, after all, everything is tethered to the dollar since we abolished the Bretton Woods system in 1971. So,
hey, I did not. In today's unexpected turn of events, Seth shouting out the Bretton Woods system and its abolition in 71. What is he talking about? Okay, so after World War II, the Allied powers met at Bretton Woods, and they said, listen, the post-war economic order is going to look really different because there's a bunch of problems. The first problem was that most industrial countries had been destroyed in the war. The Soviet Union, Germany, France, England, had all been decimated by the Second World War. So their currencies would not be very valuable, right? In the case of countries like Germany or France, literally most of their industries had been completely reduced to rubble. So they said, we need a way to ensure that currencies remain stable. And the US said, listen, we're the biggest economy, we're the last man standing, we will peg our currency to gold. And every other currency gets pegged to ours. If you think this sounds like just a very leveraged system, you're absolutely right. That's exactly what it is. So the British pound or the French franc or the German Deutschmark would all be pegged to a fixed exchange rate to the dollar. I think they had a little band that they could kind of float in. And this would allow those countries to change the exchange rate relative to the dollar in order to engage in monetary policy. That is to say, making their currency less or more expensive to ensure that they could have imports and exports in the right measure. Now, this system actually worked pretty well. It was originally why the IMF was invented. The IMF was supposed to buy or sell currencies to the tunes of, at the time, tens or hundreds of millions of dollars to ensure that the currencies never got too far out of whack. So, why did Nixon abolish it? Well, the answer was the US had said every dollar is good for, I don't know, make up your number, $1 worth of gold, a gram of gold or something, right? Problem was that after the Vietnam War, the US took out a lot of loans and they did a lot of money printing. And slowly the market began to realize, hey, listen, there's way too many dollars floating around. There's no way the US has enough gold in its bank to back all these dollars that it's printed to fund the Vietnam War. And so before anyone could realize it, Nixon said, with no notice, oh, guess what? The dollar, you can't exchange it for gold anymore. And people kind of freaked out, but not as much as you would think, right? Because people had gotten so used to treating the dollar, not gold, but the dollar as the international reserve currency that it just kept on keeping on. Of course, now a dollar is only backed by the full faith and credit of the United States government, which, given that we have some elected officials that believe that their space laser starting fires, that might not quite have the oomph that it used to. But that is the important thing to understand about Bretton Woods, is that it functionally was a leveraged gold standard that was basically held in place by the dollar. Now we have a series of everybody having floating currencies. They're all pretty much backed by their governments. And so that's why you end up with currency traders, you end up with currency crises. It's a much more chaotic market-facing system that, of course, can sometimes produce outcomes like this hyperinflation.
Even if you're holding pounds, euros, or yen, it doesn't matter because you're equally screwed. Our hyperinflation is your hyperinflation. Enjoy. In conclusion, the Federal Reserve is run by hyperinflation fetishists. But here's the thing, they're not doing it for money. They're doing it Because they're perverts and they find it to be extremely, extremely hot. Now, let's
Okay. Gross. 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 That's all I have to say about that. It's all gross.
talk about something completely unrelated.
Okay, let's no, we're not. I'm not going to let him get away with this. Yes, is it funny? Yeah, it's pretty funny. But real inflation. Okay, let's say you're Elon Musk. But in this scenario, you're Elon Musk, but literally you don't own Tesla. You sold all your Tesla and you're sitting on $100 billion or $1 trillion. Now, let's say there are two economies. There is let's say we have an economy that is the dollar is either flat or deflating. That is to say, the dollar, that if you could buy one apple for $1 today, next year you'll be able to buy two apples for $1. That's a deflating currency. The currency is getting more valuable over time. Here's the problem. If you are Elon Musk and you have $100 trillion or $1 trillion, why would you ever invest a deflating currency? Because look, it's going to buy you more apples tomorrow. It's going to buy you more houses tomorrow. So why would you ever invest it? Instead, you would hoard the wealth like some sort of medieval king, just putting it in treasure chests. And that's actually kind of how medieval kings would often operate. Though gold coins, right, they were always mining gold, so it was just mildly inflationary. This is why you don't really get capital investments of any scale in a deflationary economy. In the U.S. Great Depression, right, it was characterized by a decade of a deflationary currency, so that it meant that literally rich people were hoarding the wealth, not out of greed, but it wasn't being put to any sort of pro-social uses. Now, let's talk about a gradually inflating economy. You can see that, let's say, the inflation rate is very gradual, right? This year, $1 buys you an apple. Next year, 99 cents buys you an apple. Maybe next year, 98 cents buys you an apple. So what does that mean? That means that if you don't put your money to work somewhere, you put it somewhere in the economy where it's going to grow, you're going to lose money. Your $1 trillion is going to be worth less and less and less every year until, until 1,000 years into the future, your cyber body is going to look around and everybody's going to have $1 trillion, right? So that's why when you have a deflationary economy, it's so dangerous. And you have to think, when no one spends money, when everyone's hoarding money, there's not that much money in the economy, meaning prices deflate further because there's not that many dollars chasing too many goods. So you get what's called a deflationary spiral. Again, see the U.S. Great Depression, where the currency lost value, no one invested in the money or even spent heavily because prices were going to be, better next year. Then their prices had to drop even further, right, just to chase those couple of people that were buying right now. And so it became a deflationary spiral. Instead, if you have a steady, predictable rate of inflation, especially a nice low rate, people are going to say, hey, there's always pressure to invest your money to grow it, build a company, invest in equities, improve your house, right? All of those things are incentives, ways that it makes sense for your money to be put to work. Anyway, when people talk about Bitcoin's deflationary, so it should be the unit of exchange in our economy. No, that's stupid and would crash any developed economy that tries to do it.
Tribal Hunter is a completely innocent game where you play as an anthro lizard who is sent to guard over the land. You fight, you protect the innocent. You consume your enemies by ventilating them directly into your mouth. And it's really funny because if you eat too much, he gets large. Oh God, imagine that. And what if he ate even more and got even larger? Well, that would be crazy. But don't eat too much or you're gonna pop. This is an allegory for your your blood vessels, which are going to pop if you keep going down this road, because soon enough, the only way you can keep going down this road is in a motorized mobility scooter. Answer me this, what will you do when Elon Musk turns off the Tesla battery in the middle of the woods? That's right, you're going to be kissed to death by a pack of nanny dogs who just broke out of the local nursery. And guess what? Breakfast was free infants ago. You're the main course. Think about
Oh, man. Yeah. I'm sorry, guys. Listen. Here's the thing. For all the stupid memes about pit bulls, here's the filthy reality. Yeah, the data's pretty clear. They are really predisposed towards aggression. And it's true. Any dog properly trained, properly socialized is probably not that great a risk. The problem is that this is not just one of the most aggressive breeds that needs the most training, but it's also one of the breeds with the most muscle. Yes, a Chihuahua will also bite an infant, but guess what? You could drop an infant on a Chihuahua and it would kill it, okay? So it's like the difference between your kid being reckless with a super soaker, like, yeah, okay, you're right, your 4-year-old didn't have proper trigger discipline and now your shirt is a little damp, right? That's the Chihuahua in this analogy. With a pit bull, it's like an AR-15. Your 4-year-old doesn't have proper trigger discipline, your shirt's damp, but it's a little red. I'm going to get demonetized for this entire rant. Okay, let's just keep going.
about that next time you're engorging.
Also, guys, do me a favor. Hit subscribe if you like this content. I am trying to get to 100K. I really want that silver play button. All right, I really need to prove to my wife that this is actually a real job. If you can hit subscribe, it would be awesome. And let me know in the comments. I'll maybe do some fun on live stream. I'm open to ideas. So hit subscribe, tell me you've subscribed, and then let me know in the comments what janky live stream you want me to do.
Yourself like the hungry caterpillar that you are. This game plays like a brawler platformer Metroidvania. It's like the old Metroids if Samus was or could become heavily pregnant, and this grants her gameplay advantages. It's much the same way. When you're small, you're very quick, you're very nimble, and you can platform really easily. When you're large, you hit like a truck. Your damage, your animations, your hitbox, they all scale with your stomach content. However, you become both vertically and horizontally challenged. When each footstep is the equivalent of a quake in Asia, jumping is the least of your concern. This might not be politically correct to say, but there's no way to sugarcoat it without making you even larger. You're a fat fuck. So, how do we shed those pounds? Well, you sit down and you metabolize your food in a matter of seconds. When the morbidly obese blame it on metabolism, this is exactly what they mean. This is what they're competing against. This goddamn lizard just metabolized, and I calculated this, by the way. I took an average slaughter-sized 250-pound hog, and he ate 3 of those, which, in a span of 15 seconds, he has digested completely. That's over 500,000 calories reabsorbed into his body, and still we're asking stupid questions like, what?
Okay, so here's the metabolism meme, guys. At least in my experience, right? I did a lot of weight cutting as an MMA fighter, and like there's definitely differences in human metabolism. I think the study that I read was it's about 20% is like the max ranges, right? So one person might have a 20% faster metabolism than the other person. And that can be a lot, right? It can be the difference between some people saying, hey, listen, I need to sustain my function. I need, 2,000 calories a day. And another person might need 2,200, right? And another person might need like 1,800. So it's a fairly large range, but compared to when you look at someone who is morbidly obese who claims their metabolism is just a failure. I mean, I had one person who was obese, I would say, claimed that they ate 1,500 calories a day and didn't lose weight. I suspect that they ate 1,500 calories one day and failed to lose weight, which of course sort of is possible, right? Due to water levels and that sort of thing. But the fact is that if you as a person eat a measured out, carefully, no guesswork, like a scale with every meal, 2,000 calories a day, I'm going to go ahead and say that I'm going to say that, I'll say that 85% of Americans will lose weight. It's probably because most Americans are overweight, but that's beside the point. The point is that the metabolism meme is like true, but it's true in the sense where somebody's like, well, you're contributing to climate change too because you use plastic bags at the grocery store. And it's like, well, yeah, but ExxonMobil is, burning fossil fuels en masse. I think they're the primary culprit. Just like your weight, yeah, maybe you have a slightly slower metabolism, but the primary culprit here is just the sheer volume of food and the calorie density.
Why can he breathe fire? Here's a question. Why wouldn't he? Sitting down quickly trades satiety for health, and it's your primary way of healing up between fights. It's actually genius design. Like, think about it. You're making a game and you get really happy when things get larger. That dopamine hits hard, like coronary heart disease. But where do we go from here?
Okay, wait, he's misunderstanding dopamine. This is important, sort of. Dopamine is not the molecule of satisfaction. It's not. I think that's oxytocin. Dopamine is the molecule of more. That's actually the title of the book, The Molecule of More. I might even stick the link in the description. And that is talks about what dopamine is, and it's the chemical, the neurochemical in your brain, the neurotransmitter that tells you about something that you do not yet have, but you could. It's the chemical of wanting, right? So yes, when I think about a delicious slice of carrot cake and how good it would taste and how bad I want it, I'm on a diet, obviously. I cannot, right? Like dopamine is just pinging. It's also a theory as to why, for example, someone, again, like Jeff Bezos or Elon Musk, that they have for probably 25 or 30 years had enough money that they never need to work again. But yet they've worked harder than ever to build their sort of empires. And the theory is that it's actually because they have dopaminogenic brains, where they have so much dopamine that the desire for more, a bigger company, a greater legacy, more prestige is so compelling to them that they wouldn't be able to stop. It's a fascinating thought about how people like that might operate.
Already half a screen, and the commission artist is just not responding anymore. After the last request, there's no sign of him. Their postal address leads us to a monastery in Middle England. But if we have to deflate and get smaller as part of a gameplay mechanic, just like free refills at a Denny's, we can get large over and over again. You get power-ups, you get stronger, and you get access to more levels. Naturally, the most common and relevant form of power-up is increasing your stomach capacity. Now you might think, oh, my capacity just got 10 points higher. And like me, you might initially miss that firing of a neurons, that transmission of a synapse, where you realize, oh, this isn't my final form. I can get larger. And so there's this strange drive pushing you forward where you're kind of morbidly fascinated. Because you see, there's many forms of motivation, and ours is to see how large we can possibly get. Who is this game for? Why are we covering it? Why is it important? That's a very simple answer. First, they came for the furry inflationists, and I did not speak out, for I was not a furry inflationist. And then they came for me, and there was no one left to speak out. That's why.
I think he may be overstating somewhat the amount of furry inflation fetishists out there, but maybe not.
We defend them now and we get on good terms so that during the upcoming political upheaval, they can return the favor and vor our enemies. Due to the nature of my work, I cover some really old and really niche games. Problem is, it's hard to get an original copy, so I depend on friends and family to send me a working copy of Bad Rats 2, Punjabi Pre-Cracked No Virus. One of the most stable ways to do this is torrenting, or as
okay, I know where he's going with this. So this is an ad, and I'm gonna skip it because I'm sponsored by a competitor. Whoops. No, don't look at that code. Do not look upon it. You should watch Seth's video, though, and support companies that choose to sponsor him, right? He makes great content.
Actually quite terrifying, and the village itself is a really nice place. What a beautiful day on God's earth. I wonder, what shall I do today? Work on myself? Develop my skills? Care for my friends and family?
Guys, I'm going to tell you something else, is that yo-yo dieting, what this guy here is doing, is really metabolically bad. They found that it still does a lot of damage to your long-term health, your metabolism, your risk of many things, right? Coronary heart disease, cancers, etc. rise even if you gained a bunch of weight and then lost it and returned to a normal weight. Especially if you do so over and over again, right? Your best bet, it's sort of like staying in shape, right? It's way easier to get in shape and stay in shape than it is to get out of shape and try to get back into shape years later. Same thing with weight. Your best bet is just to stay within a pretty narrow weight range.
Family? I know. I'll spend my entire life on
Easier said than done, though, in the era of fast food, Domino's, and Grubhub.
And become increasingly weird and isolated, divorced from reality. Self-esteem? What's that? I like the little townspeople. They give you a sense of community and a purpose for why you're doing what you're doing. I also found out the flying minigame is a really good way to make money. On the other hand, it's really difficult to explain to friends the nature of your anger. There's not many ways to say, I popped. Like Icarus, I flew too close to the sun. Or in this case, I flew too close to one chicken dinner too many. And I have to repeat the entire stage. You can play using a keyboard or controller, but I strongly recommend a controller for your own comfort and sanity. Personally, I think the platforming is incredibly difficult. I've had situations where I can clear the entire level, but I can't make a single jump to save my life. And then I proceed to repeatedly eat the same trap until I die. You have two spells, fire and egg. What do they do? Well, it's pretty self-explanatory. Fire is fire, and egg can make a cow forcibly pregnant. Not really much more to say about that. We know the rest. The milk industry, reptile eggs. Some would argue you can't have one without the other. You get extra skills and abilities by defeating bosses, which in turn can be used to access new areas. Music is pretty nice. You hear the
all right, these are just weird, man. These are just weird. I'm
same tracks often, but they're not grating or pronounced, so they don't really feel repetitive. Some sounds are not balanced for the rest of the game. Each time I hit an armored pig, my speakers shake and my table travels. In town, you can buy items, and I strongly recommend them. They can save your life or a trip back home.
Okay, I just want to point out that this is right. Normally, so if you are like playing like, I don't know, a Zelda game or whatever, you're going to have items that are like bread, egg, medicinal plant, ham or something, or potato, right? Here, it's literally soda, fried chicken, giant burger, super pizza, and an entire chicken. Which I think is just hilarious that they acknowledge that, yes, a lot of this level of fatness is just governed entirely by what you choose to eat, which is also true. What's fascinating is that fast food in the U.S., right? When you have good food, what makes it good? Well, the chef is going to use flavors, textures, and to create an effect. They're going to use salt and fat to sort of enhance what's already a really good flavor profile, but they're going to use it in balance. Fast food in the US relies on two things to instill their terrible food with what feels like an appealing flavor, and that is fat and salt. That's it. If it's not loaded with sugar, like a dessert, it's fat and salt. That's what makes it good. Even something like chicken nuggets, which presumably are lean meat, right? There are more calories and fat in chicken nuggets than there are calories from protein, which is insane because you think of bodybuilders, right? They live off of nothing but chicken breast. So just a lesson that you should be aware that that's an easy food hack. And honestly, there's a medium chance that like if your favorite restaurant has this like delicious to die for thing that they make better than anybody else, they may just be circumventing good cooking by being like, hey, salt and butter. Let's just load this MFR up with salt and butter and will make people be like, oh, their okra salad's really good or whatever. It's because the salt and butter.
Which can be quite a bit of backtracking. Thankfully, you unlock the ability to fast travel relatively early into the game. I actually love it because the animation is based on your current weight. So if you're thin, you can tell it's a very pleasant ride. If you're not, well, it's clearly more of a struggle to stay in the air. At some point, I realized you can intentionally get caught and bloated by slime plants, break free, spit out the slimes, kill them, and generate infinite XP. Unfortunately, I have to witness something unsettling each time I do this. So no, I don't think it's an exploit. It's an intentional form of torture. Everything you gain is outweighed by everything you lose, namely the ability to close your eyes ever again.
Yeah, this is indeed
burned into your skull. Enemies are varied and will harm you in one of two ways. One, they can kill you. Two, they can forcibly feed you until you explode. This is a similar experience to visiting grandma. The longer you stay, the higher your risk of cardiac arrest. She won't kill you out of hatred. She'll drown you in the pancake syrup river of love. Also, the
Man, okay, this is like the hardest game to watch if you're on a diet, which, by the way, video coming soon. By soon, I mean like probably in like a month.
death sequence for getting too full is arguably more difficult to swallow. Food is both your strength and weakness. You must constantly toe the line between obesity and death. They say video games are not the greatest medium for storytelling, but I disagree. When you see your obese lizard grappling the side of a cliff, his face says it all. Without words, he evokes one singular emotion: concern. The enemy placement in this game is brutal. Forget those two archers in Anor Londo. That will seem like a pleasant memory when you're getting stun-locked by roast turkey. You get XP pretty generously, and this lets you upgrade your abilities at any time. Many of these are locked until you get later into the game. I don't have any recommendations except get healing on your punches, because relying on digestion for health is okay, but you can't do magic on an empty stomach. And that's a shame, because playing the game as a tactical egg artillery is objectively the best experience. Imagine seeing some.
This is so dumb. This is just so dumb, guys. I don't know what to tell you. Just the fact that it's clearly servicing like fetishists, just I don't know what to tell you. Now, here's what I do want to know. I want to know. This is an extremely obscure sub fetish, and so how much did this game make? That's what I want to know. Right? It's what, $9.99 a pop. How many people have bought and downloaded this game? And like, is the developer like swimming in money because they made a platformer that caters to weirdos? Or is it like they're a weirdo and this is a labor of love and they made the equivalent of like, $7 an hour programming this, but it's their magnum opus?
Pouring from the sky, and it's either going to kill you or make you pregnant.
I mean, if there's one thing that we've learned in 2022, it's that if you make even moderately sexual content, i.e. OnlyFans, you are basically 6 months away from being entering the 1%. Like, the future magnates of the world will be people who just made OnlyFans content for like 3 years.
That's quite terrifying. Critique: I hate slimes. I really dislike them. That is all. Besides that, sometimes animations really don't look like they should affect you, but they do. Like, you can feel a hammer's shockwave when you're not even on the same floor. It's a minor complaint, and they'll probably fix this. You know what? It's a furry developer. In all likelihood, they will fix this, and they're currently taking notes. That's the difference. You want something done? Stop recruiting on LinkedIn. Go to Fur Affinity instead. Also, some of the controls can be awkward, but you can remap them. And also, you're just gonna get used to it. Reverse critique: I really like the idle animations. That is all. In conclusion, I give Tribal Hunter a full out of belly. It was there for me during a difficult period of my life. Each time I made any money, I would flash my wads of cash outside my wallet and comically lose them to a strong gust of wind each time. Eventually, I was left.
Is the strong gust of wind inflation in this story? I mean, the economic inflation, not what this guy's suffering from.
With nothing.
You can tell us, Seth.
And a small bag of crack. I knew I had to get my life together. So I smoked the whole bag, using them to outrun cars and siphon gasoline from their tanks, usually at the same time. I would describe the experience like using the devil trigger from Devil May Cry. I used high gasoline prices to in turn buy more crack, which I used to call fueling my addiction. I found this joke to be very amusing. I would repeat it often to the same home.
Where is he going with this? I really hope this isn't true, by the way, but I don't think it is.
defenseless man I would hound for hours, running circles around him as he cried and wept. And here I am today. Thank you, Tribal Hunter, for giving me my life back. Hey, sorry for stretching out the video, but I'm happy to inform you all that Tribal Hunter is now on GOG. Follow my GOG link at /
Wait. Let's see if we can find the number of reviews that this has had. Nope. Be the first to rate. Okay, so maybe not
Hunter
much.
is now on GOG. Follow my GOG link at / UNICEF for 15% off.
UNICEF,
For every
Jesus.
dollar you spend, I will personally steal a liter of clean drinking water from the children that need it most. Forget charities.
That's some
that make
UNICEF
things
shit
better.
right there.
I promise I'll make them worse. The developers told us they're really close to a 1.0 release, so even if you buy now, the game is going to leak.
I really want to know. Wait, let's
As
see.
always, more content to come, so stay tuned. Or
All right, guys, that was weird. Again, please hit subscribe. I'm gonna do a quick check, right, to see download Trial Hunter. Let's see how many reviews it has. I know Seth just covered it, so 97% of people like this game. Okay, very cool. All right, on Steam, let's see. Okay, so there is a total of let's look. Okay, 55 over. Okay, all reviews overwhelmingly positive. 555 overall reviews. So let's be conservative and say that. Sorry, this stuff fascinates me. Okay, so 500 reviews. It's let's say conservatively that 50% of people left a review. I think the real number is more like 5%, but let's say the total number of purchasers is 1,100. Now we multiply that by the $12.74 price tag, which means this title grossed $14,000. That's not bad, but man, if you had a dev team doing it, probably not great. But still, could be as high as, but still, probably made under $100,000 in sales. And that is after Seth blowing it up. Anyway, guys, if you enjoyed this, of course, hit subscribe. That's all I ask. Just hit that subscribe button. Help me get to 100,000. Let me get that silver play button. And I'll see you guys in the next one.